The most influential ism in the country today appears to be Hindutva. It has taken a long time for this ideology to come of age. But what happened to the other ideological movements that began in the early 20th century? The RSS will turn 100 years old next year, but so will the Communist Party of India. Ambedkarism, Marxism, liberalism, Dravidianism, feminism, Gandhiism. What role are these great big isms of the 20th century playing in the 21st century? What relevance do they have today?
I'm an atheist in the same way as I'm an leprechaun.
Why have there been casteism existing in the country still today?
Feminism, by definition, is the belief that men and women should have equal
So the
rights.
nature of the system is to be as mean and rotten as you can, to try to maximize profit.
I'm Sudipto Mondal, and welcome to this episode of What's Your Ism? Hello and welcome to yet another episode of What's Your Ism? My name is Sudipto Mondal, and today on this show we are going to try and understand the ism of a person who needs no introduction in the northern half of India, definitely not in Maharashtra. He's a three-time MP, two times from a Lok Sabha seat and once in the Rajya Sabha. He's also the grandson of the architect of the Indian Constitution. We have with us today Mr. Prakash Ambedkar. Sir, welcome to What's Your Ism? Thanks for joining us online.
Thanks for inviting.
Sir, your people who are close to you call you Bala Saheb. Can I call you Bala Saheb in this interview?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. So Bala Saheb, I mean, this interview was supposed to have happened when the election was on, the Lok Sabha election. I tried many times to get you, but obviously you were, busy on the campaign trail. Now, one of the things we were thinking, or from a distance, is why is the VBA, why is Prakash Ambedkar not just going for a deal right now? Because this alliance that you were, not exactly part of, and then the alliance came apart, the India alliance, finally when we have the results now, in hindsight, we see that even a CPM and a CPI ML has two MPs in parliament after almost 20-25 years. Looking back, Bala Saheb, my first question to you is, do you think that maybe you could have been a little less, forceful in your demands? Maybe in hindsight, if you had made some cut some corners, let's say with the alliance, you could have had 2 to 3 MPs today in parliament. Any regrets looking back?
Well, there's no regret, let me tell you, because this is not from today. I'm seeing this from 1982, to be very precise. We were 3 or 4 candidates who can say could withstand the Indira Gandhi assassination wave. I was fought from RPI.
Which year was this?
That was in 85. And I lost by 3,000 votes. Where you can say stalwarts couldn't even save their constituencies. Question is basically, we are a counter to the established system. Now you take the case of, to put it more precisely, you take Jarange Patil. He is also Maratha. He is fighting for the lower Maratha, and you have the upper Maratha not accommodating him. So here there is one antagonism against the have-nots, if I put it that way.
Sir, Jarange Patil, if for our audience in the south, they may be a little ignorant about politics in Maharashtra, please, if you can just give us a little bit of background about Jarange Patil.
See, Jarange Patil is a representative of the poor Marathas. He is not from the rich Maratha. He is representing the poor Marathas. With no doubt, we have power of the Marathas in Maharashtra, but this power is concentrated in the hands of only 169 families, MPs, MLAs, district and district banks, cooperative movement. Then you have the chairmanship of the sugar companies and sugar cooperatives, the milk cooperative. These are all controlled, you can see, by these 169 rich Marathas. I classify them as 2 things. One is Nizami Maratha. Now Nizam is very close to Maharashtra. He ruled Maharashtra for quite a long time, and Nizam created Jagirdars, Inamdars, Deshmukhs, and Watandars. So these Marathas I refer to them as Nizami Marathas. And then you have the other Maratha who is the Rayat is the word that we use. Rayat means common. So he is represented by the Shivaji Maharaj. The present revenue system that what we have today is the creation of in Maharashtra is the creation of Shivaji Maharaj. So he did away with the system of Sardar, Jagirdar, Inamdar, and Watandars and Deshmukhs. So he brought in equality and as we have the present revenue collection through government appointed agencies or employees, he had that kind of a system. So these are two Marathas. One is, you can say, who is the rich Maratha, whom I am calling the Nizam Maratha, and the poor Maratha is called the Rayat Maratha. Within these two Marathas, the rich Maratha is not ready to accept the poor Maratha, who is of the same caste, same lineage. They are not ready to accept. They are not ready to accept him. And one of the focal difference we had in our discussion was, I said we should accept him, and they don't want the apple cart to be turned around. Therefore, any move by anybody, it just blocked. Even if the question that you have asked for, how many seats they offered us in the end? Only two.
Three.
So the question is basically is, you take 2 seats and lose, and then your movement is out. Here, you contest and you survive. You contest and get vote, and you survive. So I will put you that the biggest loss is to Rahul Gandhi. Though I am not on the national politics for quite a long period, but I still have the pulse of the national politics. It was 7 to 8 months before I said, if India Alliance joins with me, I will ensure that the BJP doesn't cross 220, and I am on the air on that. But you need to feel the pulse of the people and what kind of adjustment that you need to take place. That is where you see the leadership is little ditchery. That even in the rise of VP Singh, it began from Maharashtra, and we were the pioneers of it. So they are very well aware of the capacities that we have given in an alliance. Therefore, keeping us segregated is one of their tasks. Rajiv Gandhi today, if Congress had pressed and offered us more than 4 or 5 seats on their own, Rahul Gandhi today would have been the Prime Minister. The center and the state leadership, I think Congress leadership has to be a little more assertive than what it is today.
Right. If I can come in here, Bala Sahib, there are a lot of things you said over there, and they are very interesting. I have a sense of the things you're pointing at, but for the sake of our audience, which like I told you is primarily from the south, some of the things you said will be very, very interesting to know in terms of the history of Maharashtra as well. You talked about these 169 families, is that correct? 169 families. And that's the way you describe them. They sound like some kind of an Illuminati, a caucus, an Illuminati, a group of people who have been doing business with each other for generations and centuries now. And no matter who comes to power, you are trying to say that.
Give you one better example. If you take the 31 Maratha candidates who have been elected from Maharashtra, you will find them, all of them are related very closely to each other. Not a distant relation, but a close relation. Right. When they have captured BJP, they have captured Shiv Sena, and they have captured Congress, and NCP is no doubt on the forefront of it.
Right. Now, what you describe in Maharashtra might be something which you can trace back several centuries, but these kind of formations exist in pretty much every state in India today, where you have, I was trying to say that, I mean, the antiquity of this 169 families, their history, their legacy might be older, but you see these kind of caucuses in different states in India today, which can trace their lineage back to, the lineage of power goes back several generations. Now, when it comes to Dalits particularly, there are no political dynasties. And, perhaps now with Mallikarjun Kharge's son also becoming a minister in Karnataka, perhaps, we might see something developing there. Now with Akash Anand being, chosen by Mayawati, perhaps there is the opportunity for a dynasty to emerge over there. In your case, Right, I was in Nagpur. I was traveling a lot in Maharashtra last year, and I saw that more than more than the electoral performance of the VBA or Prakash Ambedkar, I understand from the people that there's a very strong affinity that they feel towards you, and with a lot of fondness, they refer to you and your family as the first family, as ye hamara, yeah, they refer to you as a Rajkumar, like a prince of the Dalit community, and Rajgruh, where you live in Pune, they refer to it as our palace, right? So there is this emotive connect that I felt.
There is an emotional connection, that's true.
With Sujat as well, I saw that these young people, they really are very, they're very crazy about him and things like that. Now, my question to you nevertheless is that, so therefore, if you were to assume that this is a Dalit dynasty, in very honest terms, tell me, Baba Saheb Ambedkar did not leave much behind for the family in terms of wealth, in terms of property. Can you tell us, like when you talk about legacy and inheritance and dynasty, tell me about your family and your dynasty. What did you inherit besides the name, besides the goodwill?
You can say we inherited Rajgara itself. Two things. One is Rajgara, philosophy, and the brain, you can say. So these are two things that we inherited, because whatever he created a trust, and that is now a trust property.
So tell me, how difficult was it to build a party, to be in politics, having inherited nothing by way of wealth or by way of a constituency of people who are supporters of an existing party. A lot of second generation leaders inherit the party infrastructure, inherit the cadre. One of the things that stands out about
I joined, everything was in shambles, you can say.
you joined RPI, you mean?
Everything was, even the society and the organization both were in shambles, because 77, if you remember, there was the Namantar movement, and that Namantar movement became a violent movement later on.
Please explain the Namartan movement. Can you please, just a couple of lines about the Namantar?
The naming of Marathwada University in the 70s began in somewhere in the 70-71, but gathered space after 77. And there was a lot of riots during those periods, during the renaming of Marathwada University and giving it a name of Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar. So there was a lot of riots. And there, I think so, the whole movement was shattered. The RPI leadership was too old to take on. The new leadership, which came in the form of Panther Party, Dalit Panthers, they were inept in handling that situation, and therefore Dalit Panther also split it into many groups. So you can say I was literally fighting with all these splinter groups and the splinter RPIs to have some sort of a semblance. And after 3 or 4 years, I could be able to rally the people behind. And you can say that was my first election, which I said in 1985, which I lost. And Indira Gandhi was assassinated and the election took place. And there I lost by 3,000. So that's where my political career begins. So organizational, you can say, funding, yes, but people have been very generous in funding me. The common man has been very generous in funding me. So I didn't have to go before anybody for funds or anything. The funds flew from the grassroots level workers and members.
Right, right. Now, Balasaheb, this show that we have here, we try to get to the ideology of a person. How do they analyze things? What's their ism? And in your case, the two isms that consistently come up are, of course, Ambedkarism, but also republicanism. I will want to ask you what you mean by republicanism. But before that, I want to look at this this journey that you've had after you started your own party. In 1994, you started the BBM.
I'll just tell you, we began with Bharatiya Republican Party. In effort, that was my first thing. We converted Bharatiya Republican Party into Bharatiya Bahujan Mahasangh,
which is the Bharipa Mahasangh.
Bharipa, and then now we have the Manchit Bahujan Agad. So these are the organizations that we started, and the transformation takes place. You see, one of the biggest drawback was, which we faced here, was that the Dalit Panthers, their ideology was of targeting the gods and goddesses. And that created antagonism between the converts and the Hindus. Some states we are still facing them, and therefore you can say is attacking the god and goddesses and their character and their behavior didn't help the movement, but it created a segregation between the converts and the non-converts.
When you mean converts and non-converts, you mean
Converts mean those who converted towards Buddhism,
Buddhism and yeah.
Buddhism, and the Hindu fold which remained as Hindu fold.
Right, right.
So it was cut off, you can say, and bridging that was one of the most important. That the target is not the god and goddesses.
Right.
The target is of bringing in we divide the Hindu religion into two parts. That is, one is Vedikism, and the second is the saint religion. Vedikism goes along with Manusmurti, and the saint do not go along with Manusmurti because they have condemned it. So this is a narrative which we built in the 90s, and that helped us to cross the barrier. And now, after having crossed that barrier, now we feel that we should start the politics of all those who have been left out in this society.
The Vanchit.
The Vanchit means you are left out.
Right.
Therefore, we have taken the word Vanchit Bahujan Agadi. So this is the front of the all left out.
Right. So this is a very interesting thing that you mentioned, because a lot of anti-caste, the anti-caste discourse, is shaped by this attack on the Brahminical structures of religion, of faith, and it's interesting how you delineate the two and come up with a third kind of a alternative. You talked about the prophetic traditions. By saints, you mean the different prophetic traditions. You had Tukaram, you had Kabir,
Ramdas, you have the northern saints also. This is a neglected part of the neglected religious part as far as Hinduism is concerned.
Right. And you brought these elements together, and in 98, 99, it seemed like that formula was working, because 98, 99, those were very turbulent years in Indian politics. In 1998, Vajpayee comes to power, and in a few months he has to dissolve and go in for fresh elections. And again in 1999, there's another round of Lok Sabha elections, and both these elections saw you winning from Akola. And the one thing that the first time I heard about you, it was already mid 2000s. I was just starting to be a journalist, and the one thing that I heard in reference to your name was something called the Akola model, right? And for me, that was very interesting, because while I was learning about you, parallelly I was learning about the history of my own state, which is Karnataka. Where you had these kind of experiments as well, where you had something called the Ahinda experiment, which is what Siddaramaiah is very famous for. The Ahinda concept is Dalit Adivasi backward minority. This formation, right?
I would say Karnataka would have been the first state where assertive Dalit politics would have begun. Both Ramakrishna Hegde and Devgowda both were in power, and they were fighting against the Congress. And at that time in Karnataka, you had the Dalit Sangharsh Samiti, which was very powerful. And you can say I was involved in that also.
Oh, really? Tell us about that.
Knowing both very well, both were interested in supporting the Dalit cause. And I said, if that is the case, I will bring both together. And I played a major role in having the alliance. You can say I can share the proposal that was discussed and finalized also. 25 seats would be given to the Dalit Sangharsh Samiti. Every district would have an hostel of nearly 150 students. And because at that time, typing and stenography were more important than anything.
At which time, please, for the benefit of our audience, sir, for the benefit of our audience, please tell us which time, from time to time, whenever you're going back in history, which years are we talking about?
Say 86, 87, 85, 86, after the election.
The peak of the Dalit Sangharsh Samiti, yeah.
The peak of the Dalit Sangharsh Samiti.
25 seats, in what context, in what election are you talking about?
The Assembly constituency.
Right.
Assembly constituency, and even if they don't win, there'll be two MLAs every time. And one of them immediately, even if it doesn't win, then immediately there'll be a social welfare. The one minister, social welfare will be handed over. So you do whatever you want with the funds that will be allotted. That was an open offer
No, no, open offer from whom?
from the Janata Party.
Acha, acha.
But Hegde and Devgowda, Hegde was the chief minister. Devgowda was next to him. Then you had Bomai. Bomai was first and then Devgowda. Sitaramaya was at least, you could just call him a minister at that period. So, but he was also groomed by these two, let me tell you. Coming from, he was groomed by him, and there was another H.K. Patil,
Yes.
who was a minister from Nipani, you can say. Nipani, Chikodi, those areas.
Right.
It was H.K. Gowda was against, was after me that I should contest Chikodi Lok Sabha constituency, which was reserved against Shankaran Shastri. And I said, no. I said, because he's Shankaran Shastri, I said, had stayed in my house. My father had looked after him. We have nourished him. I said, had it been somebody else, I said, I would have contested. But a person who has stayed in the family for 4 or 5 years, I said, we will not do it. So that's what it is. But the Dalit Sangat Samiti, I would say, failed in accepting that offer. Just because Mr. Hanur, who was one of the president, there was others escape. There were others. There was one Mr. Patil who was interested in seeing that this doesn't develop, and he put a spanner and saying that this is what is there. But these two came out immediately with the offer that since there are 3 months, we make him the minister in the present cabinet.
Right.
But somehow the other didn't allow it to be clicked. That's how it is. The same thing I would say I did it in Andhra Pradesh. With Katti Padmarao is still alive.
Right.
And Sindoor incident had taken place.
The Dalit Mahasabha.
Yeah, and Dalit Mahasabha. And he came out very strongly. And at that time, there was a split on Sindhu incident, whether the Kamma, who was the culprit, what action should be taken. So there was between the leftist party, there was a difference. And Mr. Murthy came out of it. But somehow or the other, even there, N.T. Ramarao was also interested in supporting the Dalit movement. Was he be not from the Reddys? He was quite aware that the Reddys might displace him. And therefore, he wanted some support because I had a rapport with N.T. Ramarao also. So he called me once and said that this is what I said. I will talk to Katti. I introduced it to him and everything. But there was an alliance with, by that time, Congress, 95, 96, I would say this was. 92, 93, wherein Kanshiram and SP had joined hands and they had formed a government. And their government was supported by the Congress MLAs. So one of the conditions which Congress put on BSP and SP was that they will help Congress in coming back to Andhra Pradesh. And there, Kanshiram offered Katti Padmarao seats, and Katti Padmarao fell to that offer. And later on, as the election approached, Kanshiram said that I'm going to contest all seats. And that's how Katti Padmarao, even being the tallest leader among the Dalits in Andhra, undivided Andhra, he lost. He lost means he lost the grip of the movement. And today he is half paralyzed. That's what the situation is. Maharashtra, you have only 12% of the scheduled caste population.
Right.
Whereas when you come back, when you come down to Andhra Pradesh and when you come down to Karnataka, the population is very high. Not as high as Madhya Pradesh and UP or Rajasthan or even Punjab, but it is significantly different wherein you can make a political changes.
Okay.
I would compare Tamil Nadu and Punjab on the same state because you have 28% SC population in Tamil Nadu and you have the same population in Madhya Pradesh, in Punjab. Punjab is the first state where nobody even is aware that the Akalis and the Republican Party were in power in 1962. And realizing that the RPI with the allies of the non-majority class can bring anybody to power, Punjab was divided into three parts: Rajasthan, Punjab, and Himachal Pradesh. The second state where the RPI came into power was in UP. That is 1967, where the SVD was formed. And to break the SVD, the main architect was Sangapriya Gautam and the president who is there, and BP Moria. Sangapriya Gautam had a very bad accident. He lost all his family. He's alone. They survived. And BP Moria was charged under 302. So they had to withdraw and save themselves. This is a history of the Dalit organizations where whenever they come to power or they are on the verge of power, disturbances are created, and we not being basically a regime which is connected to power and to power politics and to the internal games that are being played, we get deceived very fast. That's how it is.
Right. Thank you. I mean, for those watching, I mean, obviously we can't, each of these incidents that Bala Sahib referred to are part of India's political history. I mean, we talked about the Dalit Sangarsha Samiti in Karnataka and the factors that led to its collapse and how it was sabotaged by the other forces over there. Andhra, Katti Padma Rao, that's another memory refreshed over there. Katti Padma Rao, again, quickly is somebody who emerged against the backdrop of the Chunduru massacre in Andhra. And then, of course, very interesting reference there of Punjab, and also how these new states formation was also linked to, in a way, containing the power of the emerging Dalit movement in those states. Now, I want to now come, before it's too long, I mean, I want to come into Maharashtra and what your experience over there has been. I was talking about the Akola model. Now, this formation, why has it never really worked in any of the states where it has been attempted? Every progressive party that you speak of in India today talks about Ahinda politics or politics of SC, ST, OBC, Muslim. What has been your experience in Maharashtra? Why has this dream never come true? I mean, there are, of course, large political parties and dynasties, but there are also these Vanchit people and people who you describe as excluded socially, economically. They never seem to be working in unison. For starters, let's look at the question of the unity between OBCs and Dalits. Your experience in Maharashtra, that is a very fraught equation. Why is it so difficult to bring these groups together? Is it because there is no social alliance? Is that the reason why there is no political alliance?
Yeah, there is no social, as I've said at the earlier part of the 70s and the 80s, if you see, the attacks on God and goddesses created a divide, distrust. So, breaching that divide and removing that distrust was the first task. And coming back to your issue as why we are successful in Akola and why we are not successful in other places, you see, it's a question of local leaderships. You need to have a local strong leadership. If you don't have a local strong leadership, you can't convert your energies and the situation into a winning situation. Akola, we could do it because there is years after years, new workers coming around and taking the mantle ahead in saying that the Vanchit should be in power. We have not been able to translate that into assembly and parliament seat. Only sometimes we are able to translate into the winning into an assembly seat. We have not been able to translate it into parliament every time because there is always a fear of threat by the smaller OBCs. Because the whole village life is dependent on them. And then when you come into the cities, though the dependency is less, but then the repercussions of blockades, social blockade, economic blockade, educational blockade, financial blockade, they play a major role in it in the cities. So wherever we have been able to overcome, we have had results. And second is basically, even though we have a large number of Dalit workers, I'm sorry to say, but there are two things which are missing. One is understanding, and second is conviction. They don't believe that they can do it. The conviction is missing. The, the day these two things are incorporated in the worker, I would say you will have a result.
Sir, it's interesting you mentioned Dalits who are in the party, who are in politics, who are even working alongside you, that often you find them lacking in, you said, conviction, and perhaps their reading is a little weak. Now, when you take that as a yardstick for somebody who can be part of a Vanchit formation, what you say is perhaps less true of Dalits, and perhaps true in to a greater degree in the case of the OBCs. There is this narrative that often comes up, which is that you cannot have an alliance between somebody who lives inside the village and somebody who lives outside the village. You cannot have an alliance, a social alliance, a political alliance.
What you're talking about is history.
Right. How do you look at that?
Today, what you're talking about is history.
Right.
Today, what has happened is that the Dalit hamlets have become the center of the village and center of the cities.
How do you say that?
This is the reality of life with the explosion of population. So the village, where you can say the Dalit were outcast and they had their own hamlets, it's true. But those hamlets have remained as hamlets and the village has grown from all the four sides. So they have come at the center stage. So this change should have been reflected in the understanding of the situation, but I would say that to a larger extent, without looking into the realities, the narratives that is being said by the so-called Dalit intellectuals, who is not aiming to place the cause of the Dalits in front of anybody, but he is trying to place himself before everybody that he is a champion of the Dalits. I said that has greatly affected the thinking of a common man. Since you have come to the center stage of the village, and those who were in the village who have moved out of the village, I would say, who has now become an outcast. The attitudinal change which was necessary is missing, and that I think should not be propagated by these intellectuals. They still keep on harping upon the atrocities, kind of atrocities, and they are not moving away from those theories. Like you take the case of atrocities also. Many people from the general class who come out vocally and support. So this recognition which should have begun, they may be small, I would say, but the process has begun. You have to accelerate this process, and once you accelerate the process, it jumps. We are not doing it. We are not recognizing that. And that, I think so, is the biggest hindrance, because this is a class which would like to join you. But since you are not recognizing his change, it may be a few individuals, I would say, but they have rebelled against their own community. That is the biggest factor which the recognition should take place. That's what I and there you will find, then once you find some supporting, you have the others who will come and support.
So you do believe that broader alliances are the way to go forward, to build social alliances with communities, not looking at these other factors of legacy and things like that, but judging a person based on their own value and what they believe and how they can be part of this anti-caste journey. Now, in that process, there are two experiments I want you to talk about and tell us what were your takeaways from those experiments. You in the 2014, 2013, in those years, you were working very closely with left groups.
Some of the socialist groups on regularization of the encroached land for agriculture. And I can today very well say that with our movement, with all the left and others, 4.5 lakh families have benefited in Maharashtra. It has been regularized. We brought about a change in it that the land will not be in the name of the male, but it will be on the name of the female also. And secondly, if that land is to be sold or distributed or whatever, it will be the female right to decide whether she wants to dispose of it or not to dispose of it. So this is where my association with the left began. You can say we brought about a lot of changes. Economically, it helped us a lot, you can say, because with this encroached land, the income generation within these families increased, and the party started getting more funds than the earlier. So this is where you can say, financially we managed our parties.
But that alliance did not last. The association with the left, 2014, and I was just looking at your electoral history. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I was looking at your electoral history. This one election in 2014, I was imagining how it must have been the mix, because you were in an alliance which had not just the CPI and the CPM, very, very small left groups. There was something called the People and Workers Party. There was something called, I have it here, the Lal Nishan Party, Leninist, the Satya Shodhak Communist Party. Very interesting formations that you were part of. And then how did that not work out in the long run? Because 2014 you allied with them.
With the emergence of BJP, the left parties straight away walked over to Congress. They didn't believe themselves that they can counteract the BJP strategies. And they believe that Congress is the only party that will stop BJP's juggernaut. And therefore they shifted towards BJP. They went to Congress and saying that they are the only party which can stop BJP from coming to power. Then we had no alternative than to fight on our own. And therefore in 2019, we found a new ally, that was IMM.
I'll come to that. I'll come to the MIM. I was about to come to the MIM part. But this Congress as a red flag for Prakash Ambedkar. Can you please dwell upon that? I mean, something that you have said throughout your career consistently is, of course, there is the BJP. You have been very strongly opposing the BJP and Hindutva and things like that. But on the other hand, you are very, very strident in your criticism of the Congress also. Let's talk about that. And after that, let's move to this AIMIM experiment. What is this Prakash Ambedkar Congress equation? Why?
You will have, see, there are two incidents which I'll just point out. Because one is the emergence of VP Singh. After Bofors, VP Singh was thrown out of the ministry. And for 6 months, no congressman dared to visit him. But myself, Datta Samant and Sharad Joshi was Kshetriya leader. We felt that this brute majority is basically turning everything upside down. So this needs to be countered. So one of the discussions which we had, I said, the only person I said whom we can take on is not Chandrasekhar this time. But I said it will be VP Singh. They said, how? I said, we'll have to link this Bofors with the common man. And I said, I know a place where we can link this up. If you study the history of Congress, the campaign always begin either from Dang or from Nandurbar. Dang is in Gujarat and Nandurbar is in Maharashtra. For the first election, 1950, if you try, that is a place where the Congress first meeting take place, Parliament campaign. I would say many are not aware of the fact that on the west you have the Dang and the east you have the Cuttack, from Vizag to Cuttack. That whole patch is a Adivasi patch. And that is where Congress used to win all the Adivasi seats. So I said there is one area where the Britishers couldn't enter, and that was Satana. So Palghar is one place where just above Palghar there is a place known as Satana. And it's a tribal tribal village. But the king was a tribal king. The British didn't dare to come inside. Where I put it in another word, that the British firearm, their cannon, did not reach the shores of this Adivasi land. And these Adivasis, bow and arrow didn't reach the ships of. But the history is still there, that we ruled on our own. So I said, let's exploit that. And therefore we held the first VP Singh meeting in Satana on tribals, and having good relations with the tribals. I asked them to come in bow and arrow. So they came in bow and arrow, and the whole national press which was there, because that was the first meeting of VP Singh, so the national press was very much interested in what happening. And when they saw the gathering, and when they saw the bow and arrow, they were all surprised. The only part that was left is linking the arrow to Bofors and the history of that place. So when these two missing links were there, the whole press went crazy. Oh, that Bofors has reached Adivasis. And that is where you can say the Jan Morcha began. And then Jan Morcha was merged into Janata Party, and Janata Party at Bangalore meeting was converted into a Janata Dal. So being associated with that and knowing very well that I would not say totally I was part with Chandrasekhar's this thing, but a little part of Chandrasekhar's march. But here I was totally involved. So the Congress is a little jittery about me that at that age, just the beginning of politics, if I could be a challenge to one of the established parties and could raise a whole regime. And that is where the Congress is always worried about these was to have happened. Second is in 1960s, in 1996, BJP had come to power earlier, and Sitaram Kesri was the president of the Congress party. And being a grandson, you can say I had a very cordial relationship with most of the political leaders. And my age gave me an advantage saying that, oh, he's our son. So I had that equation with Sitaram Kesri also, and he said, no, I want this government off. I said, okay, we'll give the government off. I said, this is the terms and conditions. Then he agreed. And the BJP lost. Shiv Sena BJP combined lost, and Congress and ourselves came back to power. But the result was, Sitaram Kesri, before the Chief Minister could be sworn in, his presidency was taken in, and Sonia Gandhi was made the president. So, you can say the Congress is worried a little about the capacity and the tactics that I employ in seeing everything gets elected. Even the elections, parliament elections after that, which I had just given a figure. I said that around about 37 we will win, and we went with Congress. 37 seats were won during the Congress will win 37. Congress won 37. So that's how the Congress feel that he has the pulse of the people, and if we give him a chance to rise up or more space, they are worried that they might lose their base, and therefore I have to keep safe distance from both.
Okay.
BJP is one where we will never lie. Let me be very frank. And that is one situation which the Congress is always being exploiting. Knowing very well that having closed the doors on BJP, we can press him and we can exploit him.
Right. Sir,
Yeah.
About your social experiments or your political experiments, one other failed experiment, if you'll allow me to call it failed, because I don't know where it is headed in the future, is the experiment you had with the MIM and the OSC formation. And that, when it happened in that time, already Rohit Vemula incident had happened. Many other Dalit uprisings in the country had happened. The BJP had already come in power for the first time, and the question of Muslims became urgent almost, and the question of prominent, and also it seemed like a bit of an emergency, because it was literally a question of life and limb. And what I suppose the 2016 Rohit Vemula thing happened, then you had Bhima Koregaon, you had the demolition in Bombay, you had the Una agitation. All of these things, led people to believe that when this AIMIM VBA alliance happened, that for the first time somebody is taking this Dalit Muslim unity thing seriously. So there was a lot of hope generated by that experiment. Why did that fall apart?
I will just tell you, my first election was supported by the Muslim League. Banatwala was the president of Muslim League. He was one time, many times I would say, a member of the Maharashtra Assembly. And during that period, even my father was the member of the Maharashtra Assembly. So I had good relations with him. And when I decided to contest, Banatwala was the first person whom I contacted. I said, I'm going to contest. He said, not at this stage. He said, I told him, but I have decided. He said, there is a wave which I say, I can see the wave. I said, I can stop the wave also, but I'm able to stop it only if Muslim League gives me a support, because we had four corporators. And in the corporation, we had an alliance with the Muslim League. And he said, oh, and somehow he said, because he was in alliance with the Congress party. Banatwala was in alliance with the Congress party. He said, I said, no, you have to give me support in some way. He said, okay, I will work it out. So their general secretary was from Akola. And then he issued a statement saying that Muslim League is supporting me. So that became my first. Being a little interested, you can say, in mathematics a little, I had my own calculations that the most prominent state where effect can be done, one was Punjab and the other was UP. There are 28 constituencies in UP where the Dalits can make an impact and be a leaders in those constituencies. So some of the Muslim leaders who were very much interested in saying that Prakash, there were so many parties over there, why do you want to Muslim League? So I just explained to them. But they made a slogan, इस बार अकोला अगली बार यूपी, इस बार अकोला अगली बार यूपी. And after some time the Congress got jittery over it. What exactly it is. And when the UP Congress said that there is far more powerful, we have to see that he gets defeated. And there you can say the Congress was hell bent on defeating me during those speech. But they said if I win on this alliance here, then I fire the imaginations in nearly about 72 constituencies across the Kashmir country.
Right. But tell us about this MIM experiment. What happened with the OACs? Why did it come apart? And how do you see, and the larger question also is, how do you see Dalit Muslim unity emerging as a concept? Do you see any scope in that concept?
No, I see question is basically after as you said very rightly, the left us. We had no alliance partner. So I said, why not fall back on what I did in 85? So the party that came to my mind was IMIM, where we can work out. As far as parliament was concerned, we worked it out. But when it came to assembly, and I think there also we lost very badly, that's true. But I would say the emergence of OSC as the sole Muslim leader, he lost his opportunity. In the sense that I had given a brief alliance. I said, look, the kind of public meetings that we are addressing, no doubt is more than 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs. But I said, in my heart of heart, I'm very clear that we are not going to cross 60 seats. After those 60 seats, 20 are yours, 40 are mine. Let's be clear about it. So don't go by all the glamour that is being seen. Be realistic. But Imtiaz, who was made the president, came with a slogan saying that we need 100 seats. And that time BJP was sitting on a back. How can Prakash Ambedkar go with MIM? How can Vanchit go with MIM? They are anti-national, they are so and so, then so and so and so. I called up OSC and asking that this is what is there, you can't allow these things to happen. No, he said, I don't endorse it. But after 4 days, his statement came that whatever Imtiaz has said, I support it. Then we said that if we give him 100, he's inviting BJP back to power. So there we said, no, we will not have any alliance with MIM henceforth. And the OBC within us who were there, who had voted for Imtiaz in that election, they were made the target. But they worked openly for Imtiaz election and campaigned for him and saw that that he wins the election.
But that is, I mean, the alliance with a party, but the social alliance. If you can quickly talk about the potential for a social alliance between two of the most persecuted communities in this country, Dalits and Muslims. What scope is there going forward? Is this a formula that should be focused upon by Ambedkarite anti-caste groups a lot more?
See, I would say is that there is no harm in going ahead with it, but the Muslims should be given a very clear-cut agenda. See, that is what we did in case of OSC when he spoke in Shivaji Park. It was the largest gathering. And some of the RSS came back and said, I said, who dictated his speech? I said, no, it is his transformation that is accepted. You must accept it now. He said, if the Muslims are going on the same line, what he has done it, he said, RSS will be the first casualty. These were the words of one of the RSS stalwarts. So the Muslims have to realize that they have to look inward, no doubt about it, but they have to look at it from the national perspective also. Then it becomes very easy to defend. And therefore, I was able to defend OSC openly. I said, don't look at the past, but look at the present. If you notice a change, then allow that change to take place. Let people grow. Don't keep on harping on the past.
Right. Now, the last segment actually, which I wanted to discuss with you. I mean, we talked about the different experiments with other social groups with whom there is some amount of intersection, some common ground in terms of deprivation, in terms of social economic exclusion. Now, when we talk about all of this, at the very core, one of the things that is very striking when we talk about, say, SC Muslim unity, ST SC unity, or SC ST OBC unity, is that the fact of the matter, you picked three states to illustrate some of your points. You picked Punjab, you picked Karnataka, and Andhra. If you look at the politics in these three states, the one thing that strikes you is that at the very core, there is no Dalit unity. If you look at Maharashtra again, if you look at the history of Maharashtra and how Dalit groups have.
Sorry, so the period that I spoke about, there was total unity within the Dalits.
Oh yes, absolutely. I don't contest that.
So therefore, they were recognized. You see, therefore, as I've said that even in Andhra Pradesh, the every movement had galvanized behind Katti Padma Rao. Therefore, he was recognized as a political one of the force in the Dalits. The same is the case of Karnataka. They splintered and then they lost their identities.
No, but the identities were different is the point that in a way emerged out of those times also, which is that in Andhra, Katti Padma Rao's movement somehow degenerated towards the end into the Mala Mahanadu, which was not the Dalit Mahasabha. Then you had the emergence of the MRPS, which is the Madiga Reservation Porata Samiti. In Punjab, that has been a matter of contest almost since the time of independence between the Mazhabi Sikhs and the Valmikis. In Karnataka, you know what's happening. And in Maharashtra, you have the Mang, Matang, Chambhar, Mahar. We see that the most erudite positions on Ambedkarism, on anti-caste movement comes mostly from the Mahar community. We have not really seen any Matang leaders, any Mang leaders, any Chambhar leaders emerging on a national platform from Maharashtra. How do you look at Dalit unity? Let's look at that, and what are your thoughts on that?
See, within all the castes that you have spoken about, it's very difficult to bring about unity because each one is pampered and each one is being taken care of by one of the political parties in the form of either representatives or some other form. See, that didn't matter as long as you see the system was allowed to function. No doubt division took place. Because of the division, the momentum was lost. But since the system continues, individual benefits, whoever tried for it, got for it, and he benefited out of it. Now what I would say is you have to move out and expand on a line because now reservation has become the main crux of the issue. Last assembly election, the constitution became the crux of the issue. This time it is the reservation that has become the crux of the issue. So therefore the effort should be to bring about all those who enjoy reservation on one platform. We must not try to bring about all the Dalits. If they sail along, it's well and good. If they come along, yes, they should be accepted. But the door should not be closed for them, even if they come later on. In the present context, the reservation is going to be the main plank, at least in Maharashtra, as I see. And slowly by slowly, it will spread to other states also. So getting all the beneficiaries of the reservation on one platform and in one line, I think so is the order of the day.
Sir, tell me now, in the states where we have seen a powerful Dalit-led anti-caste movement. You can talk about UP, Andhra, Telangana, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra. The leaders that emerged from these movements invariably happen to be from communities, Dalit communities, which other Dalit communities described as slightly advantaged. The militant communities also were pointed towards by other Dalit communities as not just militant but also slightly more privileged in comparison to them. So they talk about how in a Tamil Nadu, in a Andhra Telangana, in a Tamil Nadu you'll find all the prominent leaders are only from the Paraya community. In Andhra Telangana, the prominent leaders are from the Adi Dravidas or Adi Dravidas. In Maharashtra, the prominent leaders that have been produced by that state invariably happen to be not just political leaders, intellectuals, scholars, writers, mostly Mahar. In UP, it is mostly Chamar. So, why do you think this has happened? Why do you think that the more prominent faces happen to be from these communities? And do you think that somewhere the other communities, like for example the Matangs, the Madigas, the Arundatiyars, the Valmikis, when they say that the more advantaged community has not taken us along in the political journey, how do you respond to that?
See, question is basically within the caste, the occupation is most important.
Exactly.
The occupation gave them security. Whichever caste within scheduled caste didn't have that economic security, whenever an opportunity came, they jumped the bandwagon. And this happened during the British period. The British wanted soldiers, the Britishers wanted some help. So these communities readily helped them, joined their army, and they fought for their freedom. The best known battle, I think, would be the Bhima Koregaon battle, where you have just 4 British officers in the initial stages, and you have the army, which was the left out of the army of the Shivaji Maharaj. And it was after the second day that the British forces joined it. So the militancy was alive. Whenever the opportunity came, they exercised that militancy. And whereas I would say is that those who were assured of bread and butter, even though it didn't have dignity, they remain attached to it. And therefore, you have a movement where some moved ahead and some have remained behind.
And it's interesting that you make that admission that some have moved ahead and some have lagged behind. And that is a pretty strong statement when you said that some people settled for what was available now instead of militating against the system, instead of trying to break the structure. But now, tell me then in that case, when you do concede that there is a difference in the way different communities have progressed, you also said that there is a cultural social difference between different SC communities, Dalit communities. Why then have you taken a position against subcategorization? What exactly is your position on? See, the creamy layer part, which the court has talked about, I mean, that I think there is consensus across the board that it was not a very well thought out point from some of the judges on the creamy layer aspect. But this question of subcategorization, am I to assume that you are opposed to subcategorization? And if yes, why?
Let me come to that issue. Question is basically, what is reservation? Is it a development or is it a representation? If it is a representation, then as Chennai said it in the earlier 5 judges, that SC is a homogeneous group. Being a homogeneous group, he said you can't divide it. That if the nation wants to make categorization, then it has to be done as a society as a whole and not a part of a society. And therefore we are opposed to it. You do it on a national basis, because once you say that there are beneficiaries, there are beneficiaries in the general class also. And therefore, is categorization going to help? That is my first issue. Second issue is you are going to bring in creamy layer in that. What happened for the first 7 years to OBC?
No, I'd like you to leave the creamy layer part aside, because the creamy layer part is the invention of the Supreme Court. It was not part of the petition.
What happened to the OBCs in the first 7 years? You had 50% of the seat going vacant. Now, if you take the same case in SC and ST, neither Madhikas are going to benefit from it. Because the creamy layer from the Madhika will be out. Where is the class which takes its place?
No, let me clarify. I started my question by saying that the creamy layer part is a morally settled issue almost. It was an extraneous thing that was introduced by a couple of judges in that particular matter. The petition, the movement.
See, question is basically, as I put it, Sudipto Mondal, is a thought has been put which will take a shape in years to come. So it has to be killed at the initial stage itself. My first objection to the judgment is, are you treating reservation a development, or are you treating reservation as a representation on the historical background that neither the Dalits, you can see the Ati Shudras or the Shudras, were a part of the administration? Once you look at it from the historical angle, the scheduled caste becomes a homogeneous group, and a representative group. Therefore, who are you to decide whether this person is going to represent and this person is going to represent? Now, let me take the case, leave apart the election part of it. Let me take the development part of it. Within the scheduled caste, whoever has asked that the financial resources be distributed among themselves, has anybody opposed it? No. At least in Maharashtra, there are 4 different boards with 4 different budgets. And why this has come? This has come only because those who represented, they represented as homogeneous and they represented individually. And they had the guts to put across, no, this is what you have to do. This is possible only because there is militancy in themselves. Would Madhika do the same thing? I was the first to go on Krishna Swami's in Hyderabad. Myself and what's the chief secretary's name? Madhara. We were 2 women. Kaki Madhara. We were 2, and we were abused by all. You don't understand what we are doing. I said, fine. And then I said to Krishna Madhara that we are giving you one more chance and we are coming along, that if you get the categorization done, we are with you. If you don't get the categorization done before the election, I said, Krishna Madhika is the chief minister. For 6 months, he ran away from us. Every possibility that he would not have become the chief minister, I do agree. Because you don't have the resources, you don't have the organization, you don't have it. But are you mentally prepared to say that, yes, I will be the chief minister? Assertion is one important matter. You have Jagjeevan example and you have Dr. Ambedkar's example. Did Jagjeevan assert himself either in the Constituent Assembly or in the Congress Party? Or even when it came to the case of 1977, when nearly 80% of the MPs were with Jagjeevan that he should be made the Prime Minister, did he revolted against JP? Had he just said a word that I don't recognize JP, Jagjeevan would have been the Prime Minister. I was thick and thin in it, along with my father. So I've seen the thing with my own eyes. They were just waiting for him to say that, no, I am in the race. And the whole socialist lobby was with him. And the most important fact that Kapuri Thakur was with him.
Okay, so if you'll allow me, I'll ask a last question. We are out of time. On this particular thing, now you are essentially saying that the communities which have been demanding or who have built organizations on the question of subcategorization, such as the MRPS, you gave the example of Mandakrishna Madhiga, how you and the former Chief Secretary of Andhra, Kaki Madhav Rao, and you went to Mandakrishna Madhiga to try and make him, take a progressive line.
We went to an open rally.
Right. No, I get that part. Right. So I get that part. So that you made your effort. Now the debates that have happened after the Supreme Court judgment, I was listening to some of them, and one of the things that this gentleman called Dr. Rais Muhammad, he used to be Ravichandran Batran, the founder of this outlet called Dalit Camera. He is somebody who has always been in favor of subcategorization. So I was listening to the debates that was happening post this Supreme Court verdict, and one of the people I was listening to was a gentleman called Rais Muhammad, who was formerly Ravichandran Batran and the founder of Dalit Camera. Now, his paper has been cited in the Supreme Court judgment. And what does that paper talk about? It talks about the fact that there is no homogeneity among Dalits. He has often asserted that there cannot be homogeneity when there are designated communities picking up human excreta. So he comes from the Chakkaliyar community in Tamil Nadu, and their traditional occupation is manual scavenging. And so he comes from the point where he says that unfortunately what has happened is the more radical community among Dalits, which you talked about often, the militant community, also has not really looked at the question of the most marginalized, and as a result, the most marginalized, in his case the Chakkaliyar or the Arundhatiyar, in the case of Andhra, the Madigas, have always had to play a kind of a Machiavellian kind of politics, where they have had to go with anybody who is willing to counter the influence of the dominant SC community. And he says that all of this could have been prevented if the towering leaders of the Dalits over the last 30, 40, 50 years, who have come from these more advantaged communities, if they had taken a greater role in including the Madigas, in including the Valmiki, the Arundhatiyar, the Chakkaliyar. How do you respond to this criticism? This is my last question, so please.
My question is, this is appeasement intellectuals. These are intellectuals who don't write for community, they write for appeasement and they write for recognition. Why is he not questioning the government in power, who has the resources and the means to free them from this kind of work? Why he is not questioning that this shackle which is there be broken by these parties? Therefore, I call these intellectuals and appeasement intellectuals. Who appease their masters, they are doing this research and putting a paper. Why has he not analyzed that the various budgets that were submitted, why they were not spent? Why is he not questioning, I would say, when Jagjivan after 77 went to open the statue of Sampurnanand in Bihar, 3 hours after that opening ceremony, the purification campaign began. The whole statue was washed with milk and purification ceremonies were performed. These communities has to realize that pitching against each other, their position is going to become worst. Because this militant class is no doubt vocal in words, but is vocal in deed also, and is intelligent. If it has to come to roads, and if it has come to blows, he's ready for that. So instead of criticizing and just looking at the political reservation which is there, why he is not joining this intellectual group within the scheduled caste who's asking that person receiving up to a certain mark of percentage, he should have an education of choice. Why he is not joining it? The issue that he is raising, why he is not saying that this will be resolved? Then you don't have the question, oh, I got 1% less and he got 1% more. Break the percentage, saying that yes, above 80% everybody will have a choice of education. Effort is now being made to break the homogeneity within the scheduled caste. And the same thing is happening in tribals also. The process of Hinduization within tribals have started, and the tribal have started a counter project of saying that you first garland the statue of Ravana because he is our leader. The next question which I would address to all the so-called intellectuals, why are you not questioning the non-filling of seats? Let's take the case of judiciary. The SC percentage is only 1.7. Suppose if there is 15% reservation, whether the so-called intellectuals who are fighting amongst the scheduled caste, whether members of his community would have been covered or not. You see, Dr. Ambedkar very rightly said that I've been defeated not by the Savarnas, but I am being defeated by my own intellectuals. And this is a telling answer to the present situation where we find all intellectuals not propagating Ambedkarism or Shahu Maharaj or Mahatma Phule, but they are propagating the theory of Mahatma Gandhi of Varna system.
All right. Thank you. Thank you so much, Balasaheb Ambedkar.
Thanks a lot.
That was a wonderful interview. Thank you so much for the insights you shared. Now, for those of you who are watching, some of the issues we discussed obviously were very divisive. Some of you would have agreed with what Prakash Ambedkar said. Some of you might have disagreed. Do please write into us. Tell us what you think about the show. If you think I'm not doing a good job, please let me know how I can improve, how the show can improve. Thanks for watching What's Your Ism. I'll see you next time in another episode. Goodbye.